Hi, this is Jan Guarino, and you're in Fearless Watercolors. And tonight we're doing another portrait. And I'll tell you a little bit a story about this beautiful woman who was my godmother. And this photograph, I'm going to switch cameras because you just have to see this photo to believe it. It's unbelievable. Um, look at that hat. I mean, this was 1955. And I guess that's what you wore. So she was just a beauty inside and out. And I came across this photograph and I was like, this is just such a beautiful expression to paint. And I love the fact that her lips and hat are the same color. That just does it in for me. So we are going to be doing a little bit of mixing in our trays. So remember to just activate your paints with a little bit of your spray bottle with your gum arabic. And these roses we're going to do in a very loose fashion. Okay. Really, the first thing that I really want to get down are those eyes, because we're going to have to build them. She had very beautiful dark brown eyes. So I really want to get that down first. The very sharp eyebrows will build all of that. And I'll just kind of keep it beside me so that you could see it right there. So let's get some eyes going. And now I'm going to take a little bit of my indigo. And I'm going to take a little bit of there's a little indigo there. And I'm going to take a little dragon's blood. And that I'm just going to lightly mix the two of those together, more paint than water, just to get a nice dark color. Okay. The dragon's blood will tone down the indigo a little bit. I just want to get her eyeliner a little bit, shape of her eye, and just carry this down a little bit. Her eyes are, because it's not a full face, it's not facing you. So it is a little on an angle. And I'm just going to I'll go a little closer. I'm just going to invite a little bit of this color to come into her eye color, saving that beautiful flash bulb that my dad had going off. I know that was my father taking this picture with his flash bulbs, right? Just to kind of start the conversation a little bit and get the eye shape. And of course, we really can't go too far with them, because the eyes, because we need to build it. So that's going to be what we're going to do. But I just want to get a little bit of the eye shape started right now. So just a little bit of the eyeliner across the top. You'll notice one eye, the right eye, is larger than the left eye because it's closer to us. And I always feel if you get the eyes, you really start getting the person's personality and a feel for how they look. So that's just a little start. And of course, we have to build them. So now brown eyes are, I'm not going to use brown, but what I am going to use is a little bit. I'm going to use dragon's blood on here. Now, the top of the eyeball is in the eyelid. So you have to let that melt into the eyelid a little bit. Okay. And now I'm just going to take some dragon's blood, and I'm just going to start the conversation of brown eyes by just dropping in a little bit of dragon's blood. Of course, it's got to go way darker than that, but that's just to start the brown. If we just picked up brown, it wouldn't look nearly as good as if we started off this way. I'm just dropping in a little bit more of my mixed color that I have here. The shadow is going to be on the top of the eye. So we want to be sure that that darker color sort of is on the top of the eye. And something that people miss when they're doing eyes, take a little bit of a light blue and you're going to put it in the corners, the 4 corners, 2 on each side, just to, the blue will help the eyes look really, really white and will make them look 3-dimensional. And of course, that's just the start. Okay, and I did all of that with a small brush, really just like a number 1 or a 0 or something. I'm gonna let that rest. And now what we're going to do is start our some facial tones here. So I want to get my dragon's blood. I'm going to mix it up a little bit here. I have some in my palette already. And she has a very, kind of yellowy orange kind of color. So I'm just mixing a little bit of Quin Gold with that. And I'm just going to add a little bit of tone right through up to the hat, coming down through the eyebrow, the eyelid, coming right up to the eyelid. You can feather that off a little bit where it goes into the white of her forehead. And we're just getting some tone into here. We're going to have to build this. So we're just getting a little bit of tone, but we're saving those nice highlights. It's a beautiful highlight right on her cheek, right here. We have this nice ridge coming down on her nose. She really had absolutely beautiful, exquisite features. Just classic beauty features.
Jan, I'm sorry, what did you mix with the dragon's blood?
Yeah, just a little bit of Quin Gold. And you
Okay.
can actually add a little bit of pink to it if you wanted to. Just to give a little, just to not use one color, just to kind of build it a little bit. Feather your marks out. There's always a little bit of white on the tip of the nose. At first, it's going to look funny, but we'll build that. Some of these things will just look funny, but that's because we're building it. We're not, this is not something that just comes immediately. It has to be built. This other eyebrow here. Some of these things, you just have to trust the marks. And the tendency is to, tighten up because it's a portrait and all of that. And that's why we're here. It's taking my brush and just softening some of the marks as they're going on. I know the nose and the nostrils and all of that are going to go darker. So we really can just sort of build that a little bit. Nice highlight right here on this cheek. I tried to give you the marks that you needed to do this on the contour drawing. If it dries, because it's really warm out, just feather it out. No hard marks. So that's dragon's blood. You could use your Quin Gold. You could use watch the Quin Gold because it's very vibrant. A little bit of pink maybe in there. That's a nice combination. Make sure you have enough water that you're not going too strong with it. And try to have your marks just, you know, feather out. So they're not hard marks. Any hard mark, just take your brush and just soften it. Everything's very soft right now. Feel like that brush is a little too small. I'm going to just go to a slightly bigger brush. Just when I'm doing a big area, I just want a bigger brush. So I'm not using too many brush strokes. I see that a lot of brush strokes, you know, because you're using too small of a brush. So just switch your brush to a larger one. Nice big highlight on this cheek right here. Right into the chin and neck. Generally, I leave I paint the upper lip and I leave the lower lip a little bit more reflective. We'll be adding some color to it for sure. She's wearing pink lipstick to match her pink floral hat. I love it. That's sort of my first pass. Where it's dry, I'm going back in and just giving it a little bit more color. Only do this where it's dry. And now my formula that I have here has a little bit more pink in it with my dragons, but it's just a little bit more pink. Just mixing color as I need it. That's what happens when you have too much color on your brush. You just have to lift it. Watercolors are correctable, totally are. But if you think about how you're putting the paint down, you'll be able to control it pretty easily. It's tiny. And as we add more and more color to the face, you could see the eyes starting to look weaker, where before they look so strong. Now they're starting to look like they need more because we're building. Now, common mistake, making the nostrils the same. They're not. One is smaller. Her face is not really 3/4, but she's not looking directly at us either. So one nostril is smaller than the other. Pay attention to that. Yeah, it's gonna be really hard to do very much until we add our lips. I can see it. It requires us going in and doing those pink lips. So there's a little bit of color in them. I just really used um, the same dragon's blood combination. That's what I started with, but we really do need to go in and add the pink. So it's not really, it's kind of a soft pink. So I'm gonna take my Quinn Gold, I mean my Rosino Violet, and just pull it out a little bit with a little bit of white or a little bit of water or whatever, just thinning it out a little bit so it's not hot pink. What you don't want is, oh gosh, you don't want opera. This is not the color opera here. There's my little brush. Gone. So here's what's going to happen is that it's just not going to look like anything until we build the painting. So what I'll just share with you is that this is still a little wet, so it's not really going to work. It's got to wait till it's dry. You know, it isn't going to look right until we build it, right? We have to build it. It's the only way. I'll go closer for you. I have some things to fix and correct there. It's okay. I'll show you how to do that. Side's a little too wet, so I'm going to go a little lighter over there. Nice highlights on the lower lip. Nice highlights, nice white highlights. The upper lip goes in shadow, the lower lip gets the light. It's a little wet there, so I can't really do that side. So I'm just going to show you a little correction technique. When you get these edges, just take your brush. It should be just damp and just soften them. Just take a damp brush and just go right over it. We're using the good paper, so you can go easily in and fix any little mark that doesn't look quite right. Of course, it's a little early to be seeing this, but I just wanted to demo that for you, that we can totally go in and fix any little mark that you're not happy with. It's early to be doing that, but I just wanted to show that to you. And that happens from working a little too damp, or the paper wasn't completely dry when you added the other color to it. And everything will dry pretty fast because it is toasty out. So test your paper, make sure it doesn't bleed from beyond where you're painting. If it does, just wait. Pink is really going to help us find some great colors in her hat and her skin tone. Now, I just want to point out with the eyes, you'll notice that there's a lot more white on the left side than the white. That helps determine the angle of her where she's looking. So it's really important to pay attention to that when you see that when you're doing a portrait. So my indigo and my dragon's blood is brown. It creates a beautiful brown. And I like going for that color instead of just going for brown. So the indigo is blue and the dragon's blood is orange. So when I mix them together, I get a really nice brown. So I'm going to go in and do her eyebrows. Because they were so distinctive and so much her look. If you've ever, seen anybody who doesn't have eyebrows or they're thinning, they don't quite look the same as they did when they had eyebrows. So you really have to, make sure you get the shape of the eyebrow. And I'll go a little closer. I'm kind of melting them in a little bit so it doesn't look like they're just painted onto her face. So, you could blend them in a little bit. And we'll see if that's dark enough. It may not be, but again, it's something that we can build. As needed. So now when we look at it, we could really see how her eyes need so much more, right? That's the idea, is that the more we build it, the more we see what we started with is not enough. And what I find with, portraits, well, with a lot of paintings, but, particularly with portraits, is I do need like a little time away from them to see what I'm missing. What did I miss? I don't always get it in one sitting. So, just know that. And now here in the center part of the eyebrow, I'm just going to feather this a little bit. I just find that that's a nice thing to do, is just feather it a tiny bit, a very softening right there. Rather than a hard mark. Just adding a little bit of shadow to her eyelid here. It's very fine. It's not really a very big, deep eyelid. It's beautiful pink right in the corner of her eye right here. I'm going to put some underneath too. Work around the portrait so that you're working in areas that are not, that are dry, not wet. That just bled a little bit down there, so I had to clean that up. looks funny close up, but when I back away, you're gonna start seeing that some of these marks that I'm making are really so necessary for the shape of her face. You can't be afraid to add these kinds of shadows. They're very soft. But they look stark because there's so much we have to do. Now, there's something that a lot of artists miss, and that is right between the eyebrows. You need to add a very slight shadow where the nose goes back into the forehead. It's not really noticeable, but you have to add a little something there. Otherwise, it looks like the person has a flat nose. So it's really kind of important that you know to add it, even if you don't see it. Subtle, but it needs to be there. I'm going to get away from the eyes and the eyebrows a little bit, and I'm going to go into the nose a little bit more. So it's very, very important to work all around your painting, not stay in one spot, because you'll overwork an area. And it just means sometimes that area needs to dry, and it's not dry. You're going to keep working it and working it when you just need to be in another area. So this is a little drier here. Underneath her nose is a great shadow. I'm just starting to introduce a little bit more pink into her skin tone. She really just had beautiful, perfect features. And again, because it's wet, I just can't do it all. We just have to wait in certain areas to go back in and add more. So be patient with it and keep moving around the painting. Go in with your brush if you need to just soften some marks. I feel like I want to add a little bit of yellows to her face. So I'm just taking my Quinn Gold and I'm just thinning it out a little bit and just adding some nice golden color to spots on her face. Every face has, all of our complexions have very different types of coloration. And, you know, to really effectively do a portrait, hopefully the photograph shows you this. It's not easy to get a photo that shows it, but when you do have one, boy, you really are getting good stuff to work with, because that's showing you their complexion and their coloration. And if you could get that from a photo, that's really pretty great. It's not possible all the time. And I find that when I don't see it, I kind of have to go in and invent colors, you know. It's a little tougher to do that, but Yeah, I like that little bit of yellow. Might be too much. We can always glaze over it again if we find that we need to do something with it. So again, find areas that you can work or fix or correct or add to as they're drying. Can't really do the nostrils because this area is just too wet. I have no idea what kind of hairstyle she's got going on, so we're just gonna have to make that up. She had very, very dark hair. And actually, doing that now is going to help the overall painting, right? If we get some nice dark color in there for her hair. So here again, I'm going to mix up my indigo. She had kind of black. I'm gonna add a few colors here. I'm gonna add some violet, believe it or not. And then I'm gonna add some dragon's blood. That's gonna be my dark mixture. And I'm just going to add a little bit of it to start the conversation of, oh yeah, it's a great color. Just gonna feather this a little bit over because it's where the shadow of her hat is. Here. Now, I have no idea about her hair, but we don't have to know about her hair. We just have to suggest it. There's a little bit of an earring here, so I'm going to sort of, and a lot of this goes into shadow. So this is going to be a little tough because we don't have the information. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to feather into the hair, her hair into her face. So it's not like a helmet. You don't want a helmet, right? I'll go closer and show you that as soon as I have it sort of completed here. So it's a nice soft gradation going into her hair. Maybe that's an ear, maybe it's an earring, probably an earring knowing her. Quick mix of my three colors. She had pretty flowy hair, so I'm going to, she had something black on. So I'm just going to feather this off here. I don't know what is going on necessarily with her hair, and I'm not going to worry about it. This definitely comes right into a nice shadow under her chin. She had a very distinctive jawline. It's a little tricky what I'm doing. I get it. And you may not be up to it, but I understand that. I'm going to feather out this shadow. I just want to make sure it's all on the recording for you guys to go back to. So if you're not where I am, don't worry about that. Just know that it's going to be on the recording. That's what's important, so you can go back to this and work on the at your pace. No idea what she's wearing, so I'm just going to indicate it with a nice dark color on Trilogy here. Now we're starting to get a sense of her, her coloration. which is very striking. Again, I'm just feathering that mark coming from her hair into her chin. Very important. You don't want a hard mark there, you want it to be soft. What's her hair? I don't know. We don't have to know. Sometimes, in situations like this, it helps actually to work with wet paint because you want so much of it to be dark. Here, I'm just going to feather this out because I really don't know. I'm just going to feather this out and see how that looks. I don't need to paint hair for people to know there is hair. So I'm adding these darks so that I can get a sense of where the face has to go and the hat. So I can't do that until we add a little bit of these darks. It just cannot happen. We'll see where that goes to. Don't have to finish it all right now. Don't have to have all the answers. And I don't have all the answers. So it's kind of important for you to know that I don't have all the answers. So I want to discover them as I paint it. So now that dark kind of gives me some very good information, right? I really have some good information to doing the rest of her face. It helps. The hat is going to help a tremendous amount also. That pink and oh my goodness, it's just great. Just making sure this feathering is nice and soft right there. Definitely need more in the eyes. That's what this is telling me, which is great. I knew that already, but now it's screaming that it needs more in the eyes. But I'm going to wait for things to dry and go back in there. when you feather, make sure you come in from the correct side of the color, right? So you need to find the place that is going to be the best spot to feather, which is always the other side. It's not. It's the side that goes into the face that needs to be feathered. Just kind of lost your chin, so I'm just going to put some water in there and let that dry, and then I could come in and do it again. It's kind of lost your chin a little bit there. And she had a very distinctive chin. So, you know, these are things I don't want to lose out on. Very distinctive features. I think her nose is dry enough that I can go in and add the nostrils, which are so important. They really help. Remember, one is, I'm using a very small brush right now. One is thinner. The right side is a little bit bigger. And the other one is barely a little slit, just barely, barely, but necessary to be there, of course. Very important that you have that correct. They're not equal. And I think they're still not dark enough, but I'm gonna wait. I was kind of doing little correction techniques as I move along too. That's important. I'm going to do a little bit more on the eyes. So I'm going to go back to my dragon's blood and my indigo combination to build the eyes a little bit more. I'm going to build the pupils and see if that does enough information. With a little brush. And we want to connect the pupil to the upper eyelid shadow. And that's looking pretty good. That just gave it a lot of depth. There is one thing that I want to do. I'm going to add a little bit of orange, not dragon's blood, but a little bit of orange into her eyes just to brighten up the brown a little bit. Just to give a little bit more oomph. And then the very centers, the pupils, I'm just going to drop in a little bit more indigo. I will show you eyelashes for sure. Yeah. Have to go in and separate the lips. A very thin little line between the upper lip and lower lip. Guys, I am referencing this constantly, making sure that I'm following what is on the photo. The expression is so important. Eyelashes will really make a big difference. The side brow needs to be a skosh darker. And then I want to get into the hat. That will really help us a lot. So you may not be ready for the hat. I get it. Because I know I'm working a little bit. I know I'm working fast. But things have to dry for me to go back into them. And I know that. So we're all gonna be kind of in different spots right now, but I want to make sure it's all here recorded for you. It's a nice dark shadow coming from this side of her eye, right out to the edge of her face. Don't miss that. That's really good.
Jan, can I ask you just to like increase your volume a little, like if you're getting, your voice is very soft.
That's odd because my microphone is like right on my by my mouth here, so that's interesting. I don't know why that would be. I'll just kind of talk up. I'll just project a little bit more. It's not really my volume, it's probably more your volume. But I'll speak up because the microphone is literally like inches from my mouth, so I really can't put it any closer. And it should be okay. Try raising the volume on your device, that might help. And I'll just project a little bit more into the microphone. Speak a little louder. The upper lip will always be darker than the lower lip. Okay, I can't do any more in the eyes. I can't do the eyelashes. I have to really wait for everything to kind of dry. So I'm just going to work on the roses a little bit. And I want to do something that I kind of got in a workshop, and that is I'm just adding some water here. Just water, because these roses are going to be very loose and very watery. And now I'm really going to go in and get my Rosino Violet and just start dropping in some beautiful Rosino Violet, very loose. I'll go closer. See how it's bleeding? That's what I love about Rosino Violet. It's beautiful Lamari color, one of my favorites. It's softer, and it's not as harsh as opera, I find. I'm dropping some other colors into here also. I don't want it just to be pink. I want to use it to bridge the palette, right? But I want to get some great colors going on early on. So this is really beats going in and doing every single rose with tremendous precision, which is exactly what I didn't want to do. So I'm going to use some of my dragon's blood, and I'm just going to drop in certain little areas here to build some of the roses. Take a little violet maybe and put a little bit violet in the far right side where it's more in shadow. Feather that out. Well, we already know she has a pile of flowers on her head. It's going to switch brushes and just go a little bit more detail by dropping in areas where I can just go into the center of the rose and carry that a little bit. But it's still very soft because it's still very, really super wet. This is a little tricky. I'm not going to say it isn't, but have fun with these roses. Have some fun with them. Really let the paint just do so much of the work for you. Just like letting some of these edges really go a little bit sharper on the edges of the hat here. And then going back in and adding more of the deeper colors to the center. And you can also take a flat brush and do some lifting. Nice soft lifting. Actually find an angled brush a little bit easier to do that with. So let's switch brushes here. Yeah, my angled brush seems to do a little bit better job in lifting and getting some nice, beautiful, soft rose edges. So I'm just taking my brush and I'm with no paint, I'm just very damp. I'm just wiping it on my mat here to just go in and lift some little areas for it to be soft blossoms. What you want to be able to do is be sure that you find the center of the rose, right? Just find the center of it and kind of build out from there. There's a pile of roses on her head. What a hat. What a hat. My father would take a lot of photographs, so I know this is one of his photos. We had a dark room and everything was on those slides, right? But now we put on DVDs. Technology we couldn't have imagined back then. Okay. Just giving a little bit of color to this area here. Don't really want to have too much of a background, but I do want to have something here. And this is still gonna be wet or very damp, so you can really have some fun with some of these petals and these roses. And have some beautiful soft marks. It's just not the kind of thing that I would imagine going in and doing each rose with perfection. It's just too much fun to do it this way. So really, it's just the center of the rose is really the deepest, and then you work out from there. I'm just gonna dot spray it just to get a little bit of texture in the hat. Oh, that's great. I got some nice texture. Oh, that's great. Oh yeah, that looks good. So as I look at this, the one thing that I see really is lacking is the eyes. The eyes really need more information. Everything else is kind of dry. So I'm probably able to go in and ever so lightly, listen, we don't want tweaky eyelashes, right? We want them to go on, look very, very natural. So I'm going to mix my same colors, my same three colors I used before, my indigo, my violet, and a little bit of dragon's blood, and that's what I'm going to build her eyelashes with. I'll go closer for you so you see what I'm doing. There we go. So this brush is actually, that's a 1. I think I need a 0 to do this. Very, very fine. And you don't have to do them all across. You could just do a couple in one side, and then I'm going to do just a suggestion, like a little dot, and then I'm going to do the other side. This looks more natural, not so heavy-handed with the eyelashes. It's such an important part of the eye, especially a woman's eye, that it really doesn't look complete until you sort of get that in there. Now for the lower lash, we want to get a little bit more brown in there. So that just means to me a little bit more water and some dragon's blood. Very lightly handled, very light. Don't go heavy with this, really have a very light touch. It will really make a big difference. Now, if you have to melt the mark a little bit to paper, that's good too. Let's back out and see what that looks like. Okay, see how the eyelashes really made such a big difference, right? They really made such a big difference. Now, this is all wet and this is all wet, but her face could use a little bit more work. So I want to go back in and add, I know I said I wanted to do the nostrils a little darker. This is tricky stuff, kids, very tricky stuff. It's not the easiest thing to do, but when you have such good material as what we're looking at. I mean, this is just like, it just doesn't get better than what you're looking at here in terms of having a subject, you know, something to paint. This is really good stuff. A lot of photographs that you're going to get are going to be really, really tough. I've gotten some doozies over the time that I've done these. Some you just can't do. There's just not enough information. It's happens all the time. It's interesting. A lot of people who teach to do portraits don't take commissions on because they want to do it their way. They don't really want to be limited to what is the information on, you know, the photograph. They just want to paint the way they want to paint. So they don't even take on commissions anymore. I've heard that. Did lose her chin a little bit. I'm going to show you how I could get that back. Just want to lighten it up a little bit on the bottom here. That'll be wet now, so I can't touch it just yet. I have to wait on that. Let's see, I could go in with my brush and I could soften any little area that I want really nicely. This looks a little harsh to me, so I'm just going to go in with a brush and just soften right here. Watercolors, you absolutely can do correction techniques. It's a different kind of correction technique than maybe just layering and layering and layering more and more paint on it, right? Which is what, you know, other mediums do. So it's just understanding, that's all it is. It's just really understanding what it is that it needs and what we have to do to make it happen. If I put something on that just seems a little too dark, I don't worry about it. I just take it and I move it with my brush. It's all okay, right? You're really okay to do that. The color can carry around. Just have to get her chin back a little bit, but it's too wet to touch that right now. So I'm not going to go there. You have to know when to paint and when to be in a different spot and not paint. That's really one of the more important things about watercolor is when to paint and when not to paint. When it's okay to work on an area and when you just don't work an area, just don't work an area, just stay there. And I will tell you this, one thing that I have learned is that while, you know, working fast is not the easiest thing to do, the faster you work, the looser you're painting. So when you want to have a looser painting, try to think about working a little faster. So while this is drying, I would like to ask you guys if you want to unmute and tell me what's going on, maybe something that you see in my painting that may need a little adjusting, or, you know, just if you want to unmute yourselves I know we normally don't do this, but I would, if you see something that I don't see, I would like to know what it is. Or if you have a comment or a question about anything, while I'm painting and kind of finishing this up, why don't you, just unmute and come on? We're not. Does anybody see anything that I kind of missed? I know I really have to get that chin back again, but that's just too wet. And, I just wanted really dry brush suggest her clothes here. I really didn't want to go into all of that. And that's the kind of the liberty that we could take when we are the artist. We can, that's what we're capable of doing. Is like with some kind of fur glitter, kind of fur stole on or something. Yep, now this chin has to be built, so it's not quite there yet. It's okay because it's wet and it's not the time to do it. I really like the orange in the eyes. I think it really looks so good with brown eyes. And the other thing that I want to do is around the iris of the eyes, the colored part of the eyes, I want to add some a dark rim or dark edge, right? So with a tiny brush, okay, here's my tiniest brush, inky dark. So we want our trilogy again. That got us our darks. Now that they're dry. If you didn't get the shape of the eye yet, this is the time to sort of fix it. Let's take a look at that. Yeah, these little steps really make a difference when you're building eyes. And the other thing I wanted to share with you with eyes is that we did do the little bit of blue in the corners, right? And you want to add a little bit of blue shadow to the top of the eyeball, just so slightly. Go closer again. Just, it's so subtle, but it's so important. Otherwise, just look, they don't look round. And the blue helps them look round, and it helps them look even whiter than they really are. And believe it or not, I even think there could be more pink in her face, only because it's kind of coming down from the hat, right? That reflective color coming from the hat. I think you could definitely add, a little bit more pink to her face. So that's what I'm going to do now, is add a little bit more pink to her face. And I know that looks really weird, but I'm gonna feather it out, don't worry, feathering it out. Look how good that looks now. Okay. It makes more sense. We couldn't have done this before because we just didn't have the information from the pink hat on the paper. So it wasn't something we could have done before. So I'm making little marks, okay? I'm gonna go closer and just show you. I'm making these little marks and then I'm cleaning my brush off and I'm just blending them into the face a little bit here and here. This isn't quite dry yet. It's getting there. I'm almost ready to fix her chin. So make a mark and blend it into where you want it to be. Because that much pink hat will show up in her face for sure. A little bit more up here. That looks kind of like that. If you keep working the same area and it's not working, you're just going to overwork the area and then you're going to have problems. So just, take your time with it. Aside from the chin, which is still wet right now, I think I got her. I think it feels right. It's nice and loose in places. Yeah, I could see little areas I could fix maybe with her hat, different things that I could go in and maybe find some nice little dark areas that I could carry the darks into the hat a little bit. So this is where we, bridge the palette and we find places to put color that maybe we see and maybe we don't, but that's okay. That would be a nice way to finish the hat off, is to find little shadow shapes that we can put into the roses and finish that off a little bit. Still damp, so I'm not going to touch it. I'm going to dry a little bit and let's see where we come back and what it looks like. A little wet for me to be doing this. Damp, I should say. It's getting there. Not quite done, but it's getting there. Okay, so a couple of things. Everything is dry now, so I'm able to go in and do some of my correction things that I want to do. So I do want to just have the edge of her face right here a little bit darker. And I'm going to carry that out into the background. That helped define that edge of her face a little bit more. In fact, I'm going to do a little bit more right here. So if you didn't get the shape of the face, you could go in and totally get it by painting the background, and then just make sure you carry that color away from the edge. That's really important. Okay. And I did say that I wanted to go back and kind of fix her chin a little bit. So I'm just going to mix a little bit of my colors together and get some of my nice deep shadow color. And now her chin sort of comes here, and I think this is shadow. This is all shadow. So her chin, while definitely a distinctive chin and jawline for sure, it wasn't quite right. I kind of lost it a little bit early on. This comes right up to the ear here. Now that's just too sharp a line. So I'm going to take it and I'm going to feather both sides. That's one side. Now I'm going to feather the other side. Nothing on my brush except just a little bit of dampness. Let me go closer and show you this. Just to soften that shadow, just giving it a little bit of dampness from my brush, just so it's not a hard line. Let's take a look at that. And now it's working. Now it looks like a shadow. And I better defined her chin and her jawline. And of course, I don't really feel that any portrait, I could just say, oh, it's done. I really need to back away from my portraits and look at them in days to come. They just, and whenever I do a commission, I really want to run it by the person who hires me, because they know that face far better than I do. I'm working off of one photo. They've known this person, you know, maybe a lifetime. And what an honor it is to do that for somebody. Now's the time that I could go in and just sort of build that lip a little bit. These things have to be built. They cannot just appear. The nose, all of that stuff just cannot just be there in one stroke. I don't believe it can. Maybe some people could do that. I certainly don't think that that's something that's easy to do. I think it has to be something that comes along and is developed over a series of washes and shapes. And yep, everybody struggles with the nose. And actually, a lot of people struggle with just the 3/4. Okay, you know, the center of her face. If I put this down the center of her face, right here, look how much more is on her right side than her left. That tells you it's not straight on. That tells you something right there. Really important to see those things. And I know that if I put this vertical and away from me and have the photo next to it, I'll see things. I know I will. That's just the way it is. You can't see everything in one sitting. It's just not possible. You just need to have it. Get away from it a little bit. Very important. And so you'll notice, I think I could do a little bit more with the hair. I don't really have to draw strands of hair. That's really not what I want to do. So I'll just mix a little bit more of my colors together, my nice dark colors. And I don't want it to look like she has, like, curly frizz, like frizzy hair kind of thing. She has beautiful hair. So I just want to get some of them defined a little bit. What's going on with her hair? I have no idea. I just don't. I was there, but I was really young. Sure, I could go back and find some more photos of something going on. It probably was short, I'm guessing. But I probably don't have to suggest more than that. Okay, so a couple of things I just want to, make sure you guys kind of get is that idea of the 3/4. That's a tough one. 3/4. This tells you it's 3/4. That's the center of her face, right? Center between her eyebrows, her eyes, her nose, her lips. Way more like it's a 1/3 and 2/3 really is really what we're looking at here. So that's really, really important. And that the full eyebrow here, and make sure that your eyeball is connected on the top under the eyelid. Otherwise, the eye will look starey, which is not a good look. Way more white on the left side. That says she's now looking at you. And yes, they're tricky. And yes, if it was easy, everybody would do it. And I know I say that all the time, but it's true. So there is my godmother, Aunt Marie. And I will show her to my cousin, and I'm sure he's going to be quite happy with how it came out, because it really does look like her. So that makes me happy. So you could see, although the frame is a little bit too small for the painting, this is what I recommend that you do with every painting, but particularly with portraits. And that is to put it on an easel or tape it onto a wall with a frame and stand back from it and give yourself the distance from it that you really need to have, because when we're painting, it's so close to our eyes and our noses and our fingers that we think every single little mark is so so important. And what this does is it distances it, and you then start looking at it as art. As we view art vertical, in a frame, in a mat, away from us. And now the marks aren't as critical. They're a little bit more acceptable. All right. So this is what I do, particularly with portraits. But if I'm not sure a painting is done, this is what I do. And then the next day I sort of look at it freshly and I will go back in. I do feel her chin is still a little bit big. I need to shorten that a little bit. I could see that looking at it, from a distance. I could see some more darks in the hat. But overall, I caught my godmother. I'm really proud. And I hope I did you proud, Aunt Marie. Anyway, this is Jan Guarino, Fearless Watercolors. Thank you for joining me. I'm really glad you were here. And listen, if this were easy, everybody would do it. So don't be so hard on yourself. Okay. Yeah, it's all good. Have a great one. Talk to you guys soon and see you again. Bye now.